Winners.
So, anyway, let's get through our winners. Your turn.
Yes. Tua, and because of Tua, the Redskins. So Tua, the big thing for him at the combine was not the workouts, was not 40 times, etc. It was getting medically checked. And obviously we don't have access to the medicals. And even if we did, I don't know that you and I are the best people to read an MRI.
Your parents are doctors. You can do that.
True. But the reports suggest that his medical stuff came back fine, right? Everything is encouraging. No Bo Jackson style loss of blood that's going to cause a degenerative problem. Tua's hip is supposedly going to be A-OK. Consequently, his draft stock remains really good because he's now like 1A in the list of quarterbacks, which puts him in the discussion for number 2 overall. But the other thing is that makes the Redskins open for business because there were reports out there that they want to take Tua and have a competition with Haskins. I know you're all on board with that, but I think it's more likely that they're essentially trying to shop number 2. It's like, okay, Tua's viable now. Now you're going to have to get up to 2 if you want him because we control that pick.
Yeah, I love the power play there. And, look, when I'm in a front office, I'll put out plenty of fake information in there. And I'm sure there's plenty of meetings that are like, hey, look, we're rolling with Haskins. But first off, you have to do your due diligence on the quarterbacks just in case Cincinnati takes the wrong guy. And it's like, well, now we definitely would take Burrow and we wouldn't take Tua. You just have to have those answers.
Sure.
But at the very least, have the meeting like, look, okay, we're going to roll with Haskins. And now what are the scenarios? We could trade down for Tua lovers and pick up all sorts of picks, or we could pick Chase Young, or we could still trade down for somebody that wants Chase Young. So you put all those scenarios on the board. And to maximize the value there, it's like, well, we got to bring Tua in just to show that we're interested. We obviously people know that we're interested in Chase Young. So yeah, absolutely. When I'm, running the show somewhere, I would, try to build up all the stock for the guys that people want to trade up for.
I mean, whether or not you think that the Redskins actually think that taking Tua at 2 and having a competition with Haskins is a good plan or not, the fact that he was cleared completely medically and is now in play for number 2
Huge.
Is a massive win for them because they get that leverage and they can start making those trade demands and start trying to generate interest in that number 2 pick, which is ultimately what they want, right? They want that pick's value to increase so they have better options. So winner.
So the Redskins win, Tua wins.
Yes.
All right, my first winner, obviously, this is an easy one. Isaiah Simmons. Really the entire Clemson back 7, like Tanner Muse, A.J. Terrell, all those dudes were running fast. Kayvon Wallace, they're all running incredibly fast. Now, Isaiah Simmons, this is like, how much do you double count stuff is my question, right?
Right.
You watch the film. He's explosive. He's an offensive weapon. You can use him everywhere. We did about 20 minutes of a segment the other day about how you can use Isaiah Simmons. So the fact that he ran a 4.39 and had a 39-inch vertical, 98th percentile broad, all that stuff, does that move him up even further? Or is it just like, okay, confirming what we saw on tape? But I think there's like a legit discussion now. Like, how soon do you take him? Our friends over at the PFF Forecast who have pushed the narrative that coverage or coverage ability in general is more important than pass rush would say, look, he might be the best defensive player on the board above Chase Young. And the discussion there is centered more around, I feel really confident that Chase Young will get here as a pass rusher, but if Simmons hits his ceiling, it's worth more. Is there like a legit discussion for the Redskins, for the Lions at 3, the Giants at 4, all of these teams? Like, how high could Simmons actually go?
To me, that's double counting it and getting out of control and losing your mind because the combine just happened. Like,
Right.
I think Isaiah Simmons is a really good player. I'm still kind of, so I think I comp him a little bit to the Jalen Smith thing, not because they're similar players, but because I think that people were more in love with the idea of Jalen Smith than the player of Jalen Smith. And I think the same thing is true with Isaiah Simmons. People are more in love with the concept of, think of Tyrann Mathieu, but 6'3", 240,
right,
and running a 4.3, right? And it's like, think what you could do with that. And the reality is most teams wouldn't do anything with that. They just put him at linebacker and play in the same way they play any other linebacker. At which point, what is the point in being bigger, faster, stronger? It doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't. All it does is give you the play that you had on tape already. It doesn't transform this pick into something different because he can now hit this incredible ceiling that doesn't exist otherwise. No, I mean, so I think people are starting to become in love with this idea that's never going to be realized because no team is going to do it.
Here's the debate, too. So, producer Ken, asks a good question that I think maybe our listeners are asking. In terms of positional value, isn't Simmons a player who could do more? And, as a coverage-first player, isn't he more valuable? Yes, in a vacuum, right? But again, the range of outcomes is so varied because Chase Young, when he gets drafted, you know what he's going to do. He's going to line up on the edge, either side, and he's going to win a lot, and he's got a high percentage chance of becoming a top 5 pass rusher pretty early in his career. Mm-hmm. In that Bosa type area, in the Garrett cut type of area, maybe at best he reaches Von Miller, Khalil Mack, but his floor is pretty high. You feel pretty good that at worst he's like a top 10 pass rusher. So there's a confidence level of what you're getting. With Simmons, anytime you're talking about a back 7 player and a coverage first player, the confidence level is as low as it gets. It's one of the most difficult things to predict. And then you compound it by how are you going to use him? So what could be the outcomes? If he said his best position is weak side linebacker. So what if he became Derek Brooks? Right? So here are the options. If he becomes one of the best weak side linebackers in NFL history, is that worth it versus Chase Young? If he becomes, say, Derwin James, he's had comparisons there. So he's a strong safety who plays pretty much strong safety. He's good against the run. He's good in coverage. Is that worth, Chase Young? Or is he the do-it-all player, the type that a Patricia or a Belichick would use a ton, which is 1 week he's spying the quarterback that is scrambling all over the place. The next week he's covering a running back, taking him out of the game. The next week, he's playing safety. What is the best spot for him and what are the best case scenarios?
Right. On the other hand, what we're really talking about is all the explosion drills were crazy, right? Didn't do the change of direction stuff, right? Which is smart.
That was your concern watching them.
Yes. Now, the explosion stuff was incredible. Don't want to take that away from him whatsoever. On the other hand, this is not the first time a linebacker has posted insane explosion drills. So he could be Derek Brooks. On the other hand, what if he's Ernie Sims? What if he's Thomas Howard? What if he's Boss Bailey? There are linebackers that were 6'3", 240 who ran 4.4s and sucked.
Boss Bailey, man, back in my Madden franchise days, Boss Bailey's the first linebacker that had a 90-plus speed. You had to sign that guy.
Right. Now, Boss Bailey had a 42-inch vertical.
Yeah, he was crazy explosive.
Now, he didn't have the 4.39 or whatever it was. Now,
just not as good of a football player as Champ.
Here's another one for you. Manny Lawson. Manny Lawson was playing on the D-line at
He was more edge rusher, right.
Right, but 6'6", 240, ran a 4.4.
Right.
Same idea, right? Now, my whole point is I think if you're starting to lose control because of these incredible workout numbers, you're basically double counting what we already knew, which is Isaiah Simmons is a crazy good athlete, also a crazy good football player, judging by the tape, but this didn't change anything. This just put a stamp on it.
And let me just use PFF terms to wrap that up, too. With Chase Young, say, pass rush grade style, he'll have an 85-plus pass rush grade a big chunk of his career as far as season goes, right? Isaiah Simmons having a 90-plus or an 85-plus coverage grade could only happen a handful of times throughout his career because his performance is still going to be so dependent on the offense, what his role is, and other stuff around him, where Chase Young's just going to go out there, hey, beat this tackle, and you can bank on that happening X amount of time and just feel much more confident in that particular ability as far as projecting it. So it's a great discussion. I mean, I think Simmons, I want him on my team.
Sure.
And I think he deserves to be in that top 10 discussion. And we'll have more on that as we get closer to the draft. Right. But he's a winner, clearly.
Yeah. Next winner, Denzil Mims, wide receiver from Baylor. So most of the wide receivers, I don't think, had particularly strong winning combine performances. Mims did. Now, this is a guy who, as we said before, dominated the Senior Bowl. Big fan of people that dominated the Senior Bowl, as you know, Steve. If you then back that up with a spectacular combine outing.
Off-season warriors, that's what you like?
Well, now you start to put together a picture. Okay, this guy dominated when everybody was a greater level of competition, beat the best people, won against press coverage, which is something you don't always know coming out of a prospect. It looked like he was athletic and had the skill and had the sort of freaky height, weight, speed stuff, but you want to see numbers attached to that. So now we got them, right? 6'3", 207, 33-inch arms, 4.38 at that size, 131-inch broad jump, so big broad jump, 6'6", 3 cone. at that size.
Is it weird that his 3-cone was so different from his shuttle? 90th percentile 3-cone, 10th percentile shuttle at 4.43.
It is. To me, so if I see all of the drills in the same area and then one stinker, I'm working on the basis that was like a technique problem.
Like he tripped.
Not even that he tripped.
He's not going
like,
5-3-5 or 3-5-3 with steps.
Maybe there's a step issue. You know what I mean? I'm just working on the basis that one is an outlier and weird and doesn't count. I'm lopping off the score by the East German judge and carrying on with the average. So all of those, 3-cone, broad, vertical, 40, they're all insane. We already saw how he could beat up the best competition in college football in terms of seniors. I would now be going back to the tape and asking the question of why is this guy not in the top tier of receivers?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, and I think we talked about it again on Friday just a little bit. Quarterback wasn't great last year at Baylor. I do like guys, to your point, the Senior Bowl is not everything, but you're seeing him against that consistent competition in an NFL setting. And yeah, Mims, there's no doubt Mims was a winner that helped separate himself. He was number 31, I believe, on our board going into the weekend, and he'll be moving up even further. So easy winner there. My next winner, the entire offensive tackle class was great. I think you might have one too.
Yeah.
Professional tees. I'm going with Tristan Wirfs, though, from Iowa. All these tackles trying to separate themselves in that first-round mix. Just a freaky combine. 4.85 40, 36.5-inch vertical, 99th percentile broad. And his 3-cone was good as well. That is one of the few measures that has mapped to pretty good production at the next level, 71st percentile for Wirfs.
Yes. He also has the largest thighs I have ever seen from a human being.
So that's the type of analysis I'm expecting from you, Sam.
They were monstrous.
Thigh analysis.
Look, I'm not big on the idea of, the Underwear Olympics and basically scoping out dudes on the stage one after the other and writing notes about it. Doesn't do a whole lot for me. But every now and again, there's some part of a guy that you're like, oh my God, would you look at the state of that?
Just the extreme ends of the ranges.
Right. So Tristan Wirfs, when he's doing like the broad jump and you just see this like beer barrel, this keg of a thigh attached to his leg, and that is the thing that's propelling him either 9 feet in the air or 10 feet across the turf. It was just insane.
From an on-field standpoint, the thing I like about Wirfs, he's played left tackle and right tackle for Iowa last year. And in all of the metrics that you want to see a guy succeed at, namely true pass sets, so those dropbacks that are 5 and 7 step drop concepts, or 5 and 7 step concepts, the ones where the pocket's not moved, where 4+ rushers, so you're not dealing with a 3-man rush and have all sorts of help. He had the number 7 grade in the entire class. He performed well. He was in the 90th plus percentile when pass protecting with no play action on those 5 and 7 step dropbacks in those true pass sets, overall pass block grade. And he was one of the few guys to grade as a top 10 run blocker on both gap runs and zone runs, mostly zone runs at Iowa. But I just like that he was also good on the field in all the right areas. And the places where he struggled were ones that are, more inconsistent, more unstable. So I thought he was a player who's just good on the field and then, confirmed it with all the workouts.
I agree. My last winner, same offensive tackle class. This time it's Mekhi Becton, who is one of the largest human beings I've ever seen in my life. And not just that, those come around every now and again, but he moved freaky fast for a guy that size. His times were nuts. He ran a 5.1 40 at, 364 pounds.
Yeah.
So that guy, you have 100 pounds of extra human on top of me, right? Because you're 6'10", allegedly. Yeah. He has almost 100 pounds on you and can run a 5'1".
I'm closing in on him.
I think he could run a faster 40 than you, and he has you by almost 100 pounds in weight.
Well, that's his job.
That's just nuts.
That's his job.
That is unbelievable explosion and speed at that size.
Yeah, so interesting comparing Becton. I've really never seen a prospect like him. Not just the size and now all the speed, but even just on the field. There were a lot of highlight reel blocks of his going around the interwebs. They're blocks that you literally never see people making. And it's just the front side of zone, you're usually just kind of engaging, you might just, kick out a little bit, and he just throws guys to the ground. Now, I don't know how translatable that is. You're not going to have too many, 200-pound defensive ends at the NFL level that you're going to toss.
But at the same time.
But I've never seen that before. I've never seen that many times where what's considered a pretty standard block becomes a straight up pancake.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of straight pancakes in college in the NFL.
I mean, so it's true. You're not going to get too many 220-pound or NFL edge rushers, right? On the other hand, like the absolute best somebody's going to do is being outweighed by like 80 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have problems, whatever's going on.
It's true. So he's unique. The opposite of Wirfs, though, like he's a little concerning just from a pure data standpoint, like mid-tier grade on true pass sets and in other key areas. And, you know, he was a good zone run blocker last year. They didn't run a whole lot of gap. They ran a ton of play action to help protect him. So it's just interesting as far as projecting him versus some of these other tackles. The data is pointing to some of the other tackles, but Becton is a freak, and there's a lot of top 10 hype, and he's working with our friend Duke on improving those passes.
And it's interesting that his grade kind of spiked the first year. He stopped doing that left and right thing that Louisville do.
That was
played left tackle.
That was legit.
Right? Stop moving. Then he had his best season. He allowed just 1 sack, 12 total pressures, had the best pass blocking and run blocking grade of his college career. Then goes to the combine and does freaky things at that size. Bryant McKinney is the guy I've seen him comp to a lot, which is always interesting because McKinney was another monstrous human being, like 6'8", 345. And McKinney's thing was always he was a way better athlete than you thought he was, and actually more of a finesse player than a power player, which you wouldn't think of a guy of those dimensions.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.